Hello again. Just read a rather interesting article. It's posted on U.S. News and World Report, written by Stephen Nelson. And you'll see a horrible, unattractive picture of Grandma Clinton. And the picture of Donald Trump isn't all that attractive either. But neither here nor there. Underneath the photograph it says, American democracy would break new ground if Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump left the presidential ticket vacancy before the November 8th election. Before we get into this article, you have to ask yourself a question. Who elects presidents? The American people or the Electoral College? You're not going to like the answer. It isn't the American people. It's the Electoral College. So why even bother having elections? But that's a different story. The article starts off saying the presidential election could be delayed or scrapped altogether if conspiracy theories become predictive and a candidate dies or drops out before November the 8th. The perhaps equally startling alternative, if there's enough time, small groups of people hand-picking a replacement pursuant to obscure party rules. The scenarios have been seriously considered by few outside of the legal community and likely are too morbid for polite discussion in politically mixed company, but prominent law professors have pondered the effects and possible ways to address a late-date vacancy. Quote, "There is nothing in the Constitution which requires a popular election for the electors serving in the Electoral College," says John Nagel, a law professor at the University of Notre Dame, meaning the body that officially elects presidents could convene without the general public voting. Doesn't that sort of answer the question that I asked at the beginning of this video? Quote, "It's up to each state legislature to decide how they want to choose the state's electors," Nagel says. Quote, "It may be a situation in which the fact that we have an electoral college rather than direct voting for presidential candidates may prove to be helpful. But major parties do have rules for presidential ticket replacement. However, and any Congress has the power to change the election date under Article 2 of the Constitution, which allows federal lawmakers to set dates for the selection of presidential electors and when those electors will vote." Don't you have that comfortable feeling knowing that Congress can get involved in all of this? But Congress would be up against a de facto December dateline, as the Constitution 20th Amendment requires that congressional terms expire on January the 3rd and presidential terms on January the 20th. Though it's conceivable to split legislative and presidential elections, they generally happen at the same time. And if the entire general election were to be moved after January 3rd, Congress effectively would have voted themselves out of office. They'll never do that. Yale Law School professor Akil Reed Amar considers in a 1994 article in the Arkansas Law Review the possibility of a special presidential election being pushed to after January 20th, with the Speaker of the House serving as acting president until an election can pick a real president for the remainder of the term. But he tells U.S. News that scenario probably is far-fetched. It is possible for the election to be delayed until after January 20th, leaving both the offices of president and vice president temporarily vacant. Perhaps, Amar says, but it wouldn't make sense if it were permissible given there actually are answers. Why would you ever do that? Amar recommends an up to 4-week postponement of Election Day if a candidate dies just before voting, or even if there's a major terrorist attack. The possible last-minute replacement of a candidate attracts some cynical coverage. But this year, the scenario would play out after consistent conjecture about the health of Democrat Hillary Clinton and hidden agenda of Republican Donald Trump. Trump, 70, would be the oldest person elected president, but his health has received less coverage over the election cycle than apparently unfounded speculation he will drop out. Clinton, 69 in October, would be the second oldest president elected, months younger than Ronald Reagan in 1980. Although Clinton's coughs and stumbling have earned speculative headlines on the news, driving Drudge reporter Dr. Lisa Bardak says she is in excellent physical condition and fit to serve. Trump's physician Harold Bronstein, meanwhile, wrote he would be the healthiest individual ever elected to be president. Old age doesn't rule out a full presidency. Reagan served 2 terms before dying in 93 and 2004. Other recent office holders have lived beyond the life expectancy for the general population. Gerald Ford died in 2006 at 93. George H. Bush, 92, and Jimmy Carter, 91, are still living. What a shame. If something were to happen to Clinton or Trump before the election, rules established by the Republican and Democratic parties do offer guidelines for what to do. If Clinton were to fall off the ticket, Democratic National Committee members would gather to vote on a replacement. DNC members acted as superdelegates during this year's primary and overwhelmingly backed Clinton over boat-rocking socialist Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. You think maybe they're going to come out and back Michael? Huh? Wouldn't that explain the bumper stickers that the DNC offered on at least 4 separate occasions? Read the rest of the article. It's definitely most interesting. I've given you the majority of the highlights, but isn't it nice to know that your vote means virtually nothing?